Hey dear viewer, this is Almighty Z, and the Snow White remake is a well-made, carefully crafted film revival. Oh, who am I kidding? This film blows harder than your local OnlyFans model.
You don't say!
Disney, I don't know how you did it, but you managed to make without a doubt the worst of your live-action remakes. Yes, this is worse than the Pinocchio and Lion King live-action. This somehow has the worst of both worlds of an adaptation. Apart from the prologue, it generally follows the same story beats of the original, but with the butchering of characterizations and themes that made the original good. But about halfway through, we take a hard turn into new story elements we added in to expand the plot, have a hastily written romance, and create a whole new third act to try tying everything together. And does it work?
No!
So we've got something that is both nonsensical and insulting to a beloved original. The CGI is degrading at best and abhorrent at worst. The acting would make high school theater troops blush, especially from Gal Gadot, and with such a likable actress playing Snow White, who couldn't have seen this movie raking in the big pennies? In case you've forgotten, let's review her comments, shall we?
On that stage.
When am I not crying in public? It's so upsetting.
I'm gonna stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess. I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. I just mean that it's no longer 1937 and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power. But it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut, who knows?
I'm in danger.
Are there any positives I have about this movie? Well, for an hour 49 minutes, it keeps kids off the street and prevents teen pregnancy. But once it's over, they'll become a crip and the teens won't want to have sex until they're 40. This film and what it represents irks me greatly, and I plan to grind my axe in this video. Disney, strap yourselves in because I'm going to roast your chestnuts over an open fire.
You have been warned.
We begin with the backstory starting with Snow White getting her name because she was born during a snowstorm.
Really?
That's like naming your kid Rainy Tuesday. In fact, it's so stupid, I'm not going to use that name to describe this character from here on out. So, Snow Pale was raised by a king and queen who loved her and raised her to be a strong leader. Hey, that's the narration and inserting theme talking, not me. But one day the queen died, and the king married a beautiful woman from a foreign land. Then somehow the new queen manipulated the king into thinking some invaders were entering the country. So he ventured off to fight them, and unbeknownst to everyone, would die. How exactly could the evil queen convince then kill the king while she remained in the kingdom? Did she create a monster? Lead him off a cliff? Never told. Shut up, don't think about it. And once he left, the evil queen took over the kingdom, enlisted soldiers loyal to her, and forced Snow Pale to be a maid hidden inside the castle.
Everybody got that?
Now, if you were to expand on the original story, how Snow White became a stepdaughter to the evil queen would be a good place to start. The OG story states it as a matter of fact for the story setting. No explanation given for who her parents were. But the remake butt fumbles this opportunity and leaves more questions than answers. Especially regarding another flubbed aspect of this adaptation, the politics and state of the kingdom. If the original king and queen made the kingdom prosperous, then one dies through mysterious circumstances, is no one really going to question it? Not one servant, cook, advisor, or citizen of the kingdom? And when the queen takes over, what exactly was her sales pitch to recruit loyal soldiers? Was it through force, riches, her magic, power the past rulers would never offer? No clue. And we should get some kind of brief scene or a throwaway line for this reason. Because people wouldn't just join her, or allow her regime if the past rulers made their lives flourish. But one day, Snow Icy sees a random guy stealing potatoes inside the castle. When she questions him, he says life is tough, he and the people are starving, and no one has seen Snow Icy in years. Snow Icy is taken aback by this, I guess because this is the first she's hearing of the people of the kingdom suffering, and also she doesn't reveal her identity to the robber, for no good reason. Snow Icy was raised to be a leader, as the film tells us, but in a chance to show some leadership, she does nothing. Revealing who she is and ensuring the robber not all is lost would comfort him. And if he returned to the people, and if her survival gave people hope, word would spread and make a positive impact on the town. But suddenly, the guards arrive out of nowhere and arrest the robber. His name is Jonathan, by the way, and I apologize for anyone who shares a name with this dunce. He almost ruins it. But Jonathan is taken to the queen, who decides to punish him by stripping him of his clothes and tying him to the castle gates. Huh? He snuck in and stole from you. Wouldn't you want to punish him by... But Snow Chalky decides to talk to the queen about Jonathan and the kingdom.
Please. You were saying...
Okay, in a nutshell, this scene encapsulates the terrible dialogue and terrible acting throughout the entire movie. So Snow Chalky wants the queen to show a little kindness to the people. So she begins her negotiation by bringing up the past rulers.
But when I was young, my parents and I would...
Why would you begin this way? This woman has clearly despised what came before her, and you think appealing to the past will win you her favor?
That's fucking stupid!
And when Snow Chalky brings up giving the people pies...
Them and make pies, then go out into the village.
Pies are luxuries. They don't need luxuries. It confuses them.
It confuses them? If I give a poor homeless person a pie, they won't suddenly think they're wealthy. Your logic makes no sense. But she's evil! Well, guess what? Well-written villains have internal consistency to why they commit the actions they do. Or maybe this line would work better if Godot could portray vain cruelty, which she can't at all. And if the queen is willing to push her thumb down on the kingdom's citizens' welfare this hard, how and why have they not revolted already? The prosperous times weren't eons ago, and this bitch essentially ran a coup to make your lives worse. When people are pushed too far against a tyrannical ruler, they usually revolt. And if the French can do it, so can this diverse European village. Back to the convo, Snow Chalky reasons that...
But sometimes something small, something sweet even, can make you believe that there's more to being alive than mere subsistence.
Which is true, but you're appealing to her sense of humanity and compassion that you know she doesn't have. Why not try appealing to attributes she values like power and showing her version of beauty? Oh, because that requires Snow Chalky to know how to negotiate, which good leaders should know how to do. You're telling me one thing about Snow Chalky, but showing me another, Disney. And as for Zegler's acting in the scene, her expressions look like a mix between boredom and confusion, when she should be trying to convey either nervousness or pain hidden behind a veil of confidence. And there are way worse ones coming up, don't you worry. The scene ends with the queen saying people may want something beautiful like a flower, but she's beautiful like a diamond. Something hard and elegant, and that's what people truly want. So we have an idea of internal motivation, but it doesn't match with the actions she's taken. The queen wants people to admire her like a diamond, and know they'll never be like her. But there aren't any events or festivals promoted or mentioned that would solidify this scene. And of course, while pushing people to the brink, they'll be less concerned about seeing her power and more about getting 3 square meals. But I made my point earlier. But this leads to the new Disney song, Waiting on a Wish.
I'm waiting on a wish beneath 1,000 treetops.
To give some credit to Zegler, she is a decent singer. Not bad by any stretch. But I want to talk about what this song is about. Snow Mayo is wondering if she can become who her father wants her to be, a leader. But how does she plan to accomplish this?
Waiting on a wish, holding out for someday, hoping somehow, someway, it comes a miracle to find me.
Yep, by passively waiting on something to help her. Not actively doing something about the predicament, just hoping she gets lucky.
Wondering, will she appear? Or will I spend another year waiting on a wish?
So you're trying to make Snow Mayo more of a leader than her original counterpart, yet your solution is for her to just wish for something good to happen? Haven't you ever heard of fortune favors the bold? And what good leader ever got to their position from blind luck? Well, maybe she's talking about something to inspire her. If that was the case, knowing her people are suffering should be enough inspiration. This song and message should be something about more applicable to the theme you're trying to convey, like gaining courage or taking a chance, something good leaders have done. but you're butt fumbling this new important message you're trying to put in this adaptation. And it only gets worse from here. Outside, Jonathan is tied to the gates, still clothed, and there's no guards around him? What? Why? You're telling me the evil queen wouldn't have one soldier guard a prisoner being displayed as punishment? As a reminder of what happens when you steal? Oh, it's because this provides an easy way for Snow Mayu to free you, which she does. Thanks, I hate it. You really couldn't think of any creative way for Snow Mayu to get Jonathan to escape? I wish this was the laziest the script gets.
But wait, there's more!
So the queen sees Snow White free Jonathan, yet doesn't call the guards to stop her. Urgh. So she goes to the magic mirror, asks who is the fairest of them all, and now it is Snow Beige. So Queen gets her huntsman to take her to the forest to kill her and bring her Snow Beige's heart in a box. He follows her orders and leaves Snow Beige outside the kingdom. Somehow the townsfolk don't see Snow Beige, and this is important because she isn't supposed to be seen until the climax, which we'll get to. So Huntsman goes to kill her. He can't do it while Zegler doesn't express fear at all, and here's the money shot. So she leaves, goes through the scary forest, then lies vulnerable with dark eyes around. Except the animals just come to her. And again, she doesn't react to any of this with any fear or uncertainty or curiosity. It's just more confused boredom. And she doesn't interact or talk with them at all. Just lifts a finger for the deer to come sniff it, which it does. You know, if you talk to him like the other film did, being initially scared but showing your personality, it makes a connection of how pure you are more believable, instead of this, just making it a major convenience that animals suddenly like her. But they lead Snow Eggshell to a cottage, where she doesn't comment on anything, despite seeing all the small furniture, and sleeps in 3 small beds. Why wouldn't you take this opportunity to create the slightest intrigue in the situation and show some part of her personality? I know you writers aren't the brightest bulbs in the warehouse this was manufactured, but let me show you how the original did it.
What a cute little chair! Why, there's 7 little chairs. Must be 7 little children. And from the look of this table, 7 untidy little children. Maybe they have no mother.
This showed Snow White was playfully curious of her surroundings, and by thinking they're children, that they may also need help and guidance and she wants to give it to them, reinforcing her pure, kind, and at times naive personality. But we cut to the dwarves in the mines and
Look at it! Look at it! Look at it! Look at it! I want all of you to look at it!
why on this good green earth would you create something so hideous that it would make Alan Turing stop building the first computer to ensure this would never be made? Oh, because Peter Dinklage put his ass in his mouth by calling roles like dwarves offensive for little people, even though you'd be giving them paying acting roles. So you create this instead to avoid hurting feelings of one person that doesn't represent all midgets.
I am tired of Earth. These people.
Well, aside from their looks, that make it almost impossible to relate to them, they sing an altered hi-ho song where each one is telling who they are based on their one trait. So instead of showing us who they are through their interactions and banter, you tell us this to make absolutely sure we know who they are. Completely. You are so hell-bent on removing any subtlety and nuance in any scene, aren't you? So they go home, see Snow colorless, and freak out. When she wakes up, they talk, and she reveals who she is. The dwarves say they think her father may still be alive further south and let her spend the night. Which is also odd because there's nothing establishing the dwarves have any grounded connection to the kingdom. They mine for diamonds and keep to themselves. They never mention trading with the kingdom or even admiring or loving the old king. And they let her stay because of her title, not who she is as a person. Keep that in mind. Back in the kingdom, the queen asks the mirror who the fairest of them all is, and doesn't even look in the box first? You didn't even check to make sure the huntsman obeyed your orders before asking your mirror?
And there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
But once her brain cells kick in, she arrests the huntsman and orders her soldiers to find Snow colorless. She sings during this as well, and man, Gal Gadot is a terrible singer too.
Second to none with no doubt when I'm going out, mirror on the wall.
It's all just so tiresome. The next morning, Snow Ivy sees the dwarves eating breakfast and making fun of Dopey. And here's another irksome change. They made the dwarves more hostile and irritable as opposed to a tight-knit circle of friends. The delightful goofiness with a dash of teamwork on tackling situations is gone here. Because apparently, they don't even consider themselves friends.
That doesn't make sense.
So Snow Ivy steps in to give Dopey encouragement and makes the dwarves realize they are friends. And then we enter a redone whistle while you work, with her instructing the dwarves on what to do to clean. It was at this point I was so furious I could have punted my popcorn across the theater. In the OG, their relationship was very complimentary. The dwarves provide protection from the queen, Snow White helps them with cooking and being neat and tidy. And once that was agreed, they were able to enjoy each other's company. They sang and danced, and Snow White told a story about love. Everyone was very enamored and respected each other. But now, the relationship is very top-down, like a manager smugly instructing what her employees should be doing. And Snow Ivy is the one that solidifies the dwarven friendship, which she's never really had any friend ever since she became a maid. So this doesn't make sense. And she's solving a problem that was purely manufactured to make it seem like she's a good leader, and make her relationship with the dwarves seem beneficial. Oh, and she doesn't actually do any of the cleaning during the song, even though she'd be better at it than them. And no, it's not because she's a woman, it's because she's a maid who cleans a big castle all the time. There's a narrative reason why she would be good at this, but any of the old qualities are thrown out the window for this insulting new version of Snow Ivy. And if you haven't noticed, the 7 dwarves part of this title isn't in the remake, because the dwarves are relegated to secondary characters. Any of their growth as characters is completely removed and they're completely flanderized to their base traits. Fuck you, Disney. So Snow off-color goes off to find her father while the dwarves go to work. While wandering in the woods, she conveniently runs into Jonathan. He reveals he's a kind of pathetic robber, freedom fighter, and suddenly his band of merry losers emerge. They all look like homeless people from Austin, Texas, and even have a little person. Wait, what? You did cast a midget in this movie, but do you realize what you've done? When this bandit is in a scene with the dwarves, which comes in a bit, you make the CGI look more horrendous, because we have a real person to compare and see what it could have been like. Oh, and his gimmick is he's master of the crossbow, but he's only got a slingshot. Disney, we're so progressive we won't cast a little person as one of the beloved 7 dwarves, but as a forgettable joke character.
I am tired of Earth.
But through blind luck, the Queen's soldiers find the bandits and have a really pathetic fight scene. I don't have the footage, but imagine something like this. But once Snow off-color and the bandits think they're safe, one random soldier shoots a crossbow at Snow off-color and Jonathan takes the arrow. Badly injured, Snow off-color takes Jonathan back to the dwarves to get Doc to heal him. Doc clearly states his expertise is with minerals and geology, but through bullshit heals him completely. So what the hell was the point of all this? Well, Jonathan starts smelling the pheromones towards Snow Washi, and she reciprocates. Ugh. Okay, time for another aspect Disney butt fumbled. The OG's romance was nice and simple. When adapting, you can expand the romance and write a more in-depth plotline for how the prince and Snow White can fall in love. Instead, you have completely rushed this, and the two like one another for the most incoherent reasons. Jonathan likes Snow Washi for her title and supposed kindness and beauty, but the film has done little to actually support this. Mostly just told us how pure she is. And I guess Snow Washi just wants Jonathan because he saved her life once. But every interaction leading to this point was just sterile. Nothing showed the emotional sides of themselves when they interacted. I can't believe I'm suggesting this, but Twilight may have a better romance. But to move on, to keep some semblance of my sanity, Jonathan decides to leave to find the former king. His bandits don't follow him, by the way, some friends, but maybe it has to do with Jonathan immediately getting captured and imprisoned by the queen. You know, who can say? And Jonathan is imprisoned to a chain in a column with the huntsman right next to him. Why? Our evil queen is sentencing prisoners who disobeyed and fought against her instead of ordering... It's because we need him out of the way briefly and need him to escape once it's most convenient. So we'll make the queen be more dopey than dopey to make this happen. This writing is just so unbelievably terrible, and I can't believe multiple people signed off on this dribble of a script. But the queen decides to finally make the poison apple and disguise herself as the old lady. But she finds Snow Creamy, tells her she worked with her father, and gives her the apple to take with her on her journey to find said father. Yet she keeps insisting she eat it now for her. You know, if Snow Creamy was more perceptive and wondered why the creepy lady wants her to eat something right now, she may not have eaten it. But she does, falls into the bitter sleep, and the queen brags about how she killed her father to her before the dwarves come back.
And there was much rejoicing.
The dwarves are sad Snow Butter is dead, but not sad enough to build her a beautiful casket. They just lay her on rocks like dirty laundry and mourn. And by this point, the plot allows Jonathan to escape, where he flees through an underground passageway back to Snow Butter. He kisses her, she wakes up, and with encouragement from Dopey of all people, whose arc is getting to speak in this turd, rises up against the queen to take back her kingdom.
and there was much rejoicing.
So their plan involves Jonathan and the Dwarves taking the secret passageway while Snow Opaque walks through the front gates of the town. The townsfolk are now inspired by seeing Snow Opaque and walk behind her to the castle gates. How do they know what she looks like now, or if she's even the same person they once knew that would help them? Shut up, don't think about it. Once at the gates, the guards surround Snow Not Caucasian, and the queen goes out to confront her. She tempts Snow Not Caucasian to take the throne by force by handing her a dagger and saying, "Stab me." Snow Not Caucasian thinks about it, but throws it away. Instead, she talks to 4 guards about their families and who they once were under her father, and then all the soldiers join her.
What? What?
If it was just that easy to turn them, then why the fuck did you not do this sooner? You didn't need a princess to do it, just use your noggin. What is wrong with you? And remember how I was talking about loyalty to the queen? Well, it sure as shit isn't good enough that they'll be able to be swayed after just one conversation. And let's talk about what this moment has done for Snow Hispanic White's character and theme. The film is trying to show that kindness is what truly gets you power and makes you a good leader. Except that's not the case whatsoever. Dealing with tough decisions, managing people, being a problem solver, and having self-awareness are just a few qualities that make a good leader. And both good and bad leaders get into positions of power through various means. Some through manipulation, some through competency. But never by being vaguely kind to reclaim something that is rightfully yours. And it's such a stupid mindset to have and to try and convey that this is a good thing. There's never a moment where the film remarks or displays that kindness can do good to inspire others and help you be beloved and remembered fondly. It's all just a means for power. Unlike your original counterpart, who was and will always be more inspiring than what you have attempted. But to wrap it up, the queen is taken aback and rushes back to her mirror. She destroys it in a fit of rage and it sucks her in to kill her.
I can't take it anymore! I just want to die!
This is one of the most blatant ways I've seen a writer obviously run out of ideas and pull the biggest bullshit out of their ass to defeat their antagonist. By accidentally killing herself. So the queen is just a major idiot. Again. But Snow Hispanic White is the new ruler, and it ends with a Diddy Party-esque celebration. Finn. This era of live-action remakes has been a cancerous blob on society. Billions of dollars and countless hours going towards projects that are creatively bankrupt, and could have gone to stories that might have been the next Beauty and the Beast, or Lion King, or Pinocchio. They made money early on because people were blinded by nostalgia. But now, you're not even going to get close to break even, and this should be a warning for your future live-action excrements like Leo and Stitch and Moana. All of these remakes had the quality of a Chinese knockoff because that's what they always were, and now people are seeing through your charade and deservedly mocking you. In a way, it's bizarrely fitting. The original Snow White accomplished several achievements. It was essentially the first full-length animated film, made enormous gobs of money, and helped Walt Disney kickstart his empire. It was a game changer and a risk that became beloved by audiences for decades, because it was made with passion, care, and exuded an innocent charm that resonates with everyone throughout all ages, even to this day. Now, almost 100 years later, your feeble mockery shows you who you are now. A hollow shell of a studio now driven by greed and ideology. Each remake was chosen not to reinvigorate semi-successful or forgotten past films, but for brand recognition. Black Cauldron, Aristocats, Sword in the Stone are just a few you have left to the wayside. Now you've pilfered every last recognizable intellectual property you have for the sake of making a quick buck. Each couldn't hold a candle to their original counterparts and have the cultural foothold of a fart. You no longer create magic through films, you manufacture warped monstrosities made to build despair and hostility through the guise of making you remember your childhood. And then you take credit for your invention like a demented scientist, because you're doing it for the modern age and the modern audience that doesn't exist. Erasing the so-called errors of the past for the altar of an ideology that is becoming as despised as mosquitoes and canker sores. I'd say this is your wake-up call, Disney, but you're on your 7th or so chance, and I don't think you will ever change for the better. The days of you inspiring the next generation of youth are over, and your values would make your origins founders ashamed. It's remarkable how far you've truly fallen. Anywho, thank you all for watching. Expect more videos from me, Almighty Z, discussing more media from A to Z. So long.